Assalamu alaikum, friends. Before light, Jahiliyyah's darkness. Then, the Prophet ﷺ's birth. 60 quizzes, 2 parts, walk his seerah with us. Series of 100 episodes. Every fact, ibadah. Like and subscribe. Join the Ummah's journey.
What was the dominant religion in Mecca before the arrival of the final prophet? It was polytheism. Now, can you tell me which mighty empire ruled over Persia during that time? That's right, it was the Sassanid Empire. And what language did the Arabs predominantly speak? Indeed, it was Arabic. But what was the status of women in pre-Islamic Arabia? Sadly, they were generally oppressed. Moving to the Eastern Mediterranean, which empire held power there before the rise of Islam? It was the Byzantine Empire. And what was the main economic engine of Mecca? Trade was the bloodline of the city. What was the Kaaba primarily used for before Islam? Solemnly, it was a center for idol worship. Now, which tribe was the most dominant in Mecca? It was the powerful tribe of Quraysh. Let's shift our focus to Persia again. What was their dominant belief system? Brightly, Zoroastrianism was the prevailing faith. Questioning, what about the literacy rate in pre-Islamic Arabia? Surprised, it was very low. What religion was dominant in the Byzantine Empire before Islam? That was Christianity. Now for a question about societal norms. What was a common tribal practice in Arabia before Islam? Blood feuds. Moving on to a center of activity. Which Arabian city was a center of trade and pilgrimage? You know it, Mecca. Let's delve into their beliefs. What belief did most pre-Islamic Arabs hold about God? The belief in one supreme God with lesser gods. Okay, think about how their society was organized. What was the social
Which prophet of Allah, peace be upon him, was blessed with these divine miracles? Reflect and comment below. May Allah increase us all in knowledge.
A difficult question about a harsh reality. What was commonly done to baby daughters before Islam? They were buried alive. And when disagreements arose, how were tribal disputes often resolved before Islam? Through warfare and revenge. Thinking about governance, what was the political system in Arabia before Islam? Tribal leadership. And their moral compass? How did people determine right and wrong before Islam? By their tribal customs and honor. Now for the next question. What was the status of slaves before Islam? They were considered property.
What was one reason for female infanticide in pre-Islamic Arabia? Tribal shame and fear of dishonor. Turning our focus to the Kaaba before Islam, what were idols in the Kaaba made of? Wood, stone, and clay. Let's consider social life. What substance was commonly consumed during social gatherings in pre-Islamic Arabia? Alcohol, wine. A question about the customs of warfare. How did some tribal warriors display victory after battle? Drink from enemy skulls. What the main source of pride was for most Arab tribes? Excited. It was their lineage and bravery. But think about this. How were the most vulnerable, the orphans, usually treated before the arrival of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him? They were often neglected or abused. Now, for their economy, how did many pre-Islamic Arabs earn their livelihood? That would be through trading and raiding. Intrigued, and when it came to justice, what was the dominant form within the tribes? It was a harsh cycle of revenge and retaliation. During wartime, what was a common practice? Capturing enemies for ransom was a frequent strategy. And finally, reflecting on the status of women, what was their role in inheritance before Islam brought them their God-given rights? Tragically, they were completely denied inheritance. Let's see how much you know about the blessed birth and early life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. In which year was the Prophet born? The answer is 570 CE. What major event happened in the year of his birth? It was the attack of the elephant. What was the name of Prophet Muhammad's mother? Her name was Amina. And who was the Prophet's grandfather? That was Abdul Muttalib. Which tribe did the Prophet belong to? The tribe of Quraysh. After his mother's death, who took care of the Prophet? It was Abdul Muttalib. And what was the name of the Prophet's father? Abdullah. Who then became the Prophet's guardian after his grandfather's death? That was Abu Talib. Where was the Prophet born? In Mecca. What is the meaning of the name Muhammad? It means the praised one.
What clan within Quraysh did the Prophet belong to? The clan of Banu Hashim. Who was the Prophet nursed by after birth? Her name was Halima. And what unusual event happened during Halima's care of the Prophet? Healthy livestock. Where was the Prophet sent as a baby for foster care? He was sent to the desert of Banu Sa'd. At what age did the Prophet lose his mother? He was 6. When the Prophet was born, what did Abdul Muttalib do? He prayed at the Kaaba. What was the name of the wet nurse's husband? His name was Hadith. And what was the profession of Abdullah, the Prophet's father? He was a merchant. What happened to Abdullah before the Prophet was born? He died. How many years did the Prophet stay with Halima Sa'diyah? The answer is 4 years. Which relative of the Prophet was known for his leadership of the Quraysh? That was Abdul Muttalib. Who brought the news of the Prophet's birth to Abdul Muttalib? A servant. How did Abdul Muttalib show his joy after the Prophet's birth? He sacrificed animals and fed people. Where did Abdul Muttalib take the newborn Prophet? He took him to the Kaaba. On the 7th day after the Prophet's birth, what was done? Akika and naming. What was the age of Amina when she gave birth to the Prophet? She was around 20. Where was Halima Sadiya from? She was from the Banu Sa'd tribe in the desert. What was the social status of Abdullah, the Prophet's father? And what relation was Abu Talib to Prophet Muhammad? He was his paternal uncle. Finally, how was the year of the Prophet's birth known historically? It was known as the Year of the Elephant.